Hi, can you hear me? Yeah, awesome. Great. Thank you for the even the invitation to talk here about this up-to-date situation which we are having here. Oh, here's the clicker. Responding to regulatory challenge, meaning the regulations which are here imposed in the European Union, and basically what is also important imposed on the particular markets within the European Union, and how it impacts us as developers, I would say. The biggest questions which we have here, whether we are allowed to create, to operate those, Web3 projects, or when we think then more about a project as such, whether we can take some risk to create, to operate, and so on. There are some people who do not know me. I'm running the developers meetup here in Prague on a monthly basis. I have some background in the banking finance, and I'm in the crypto Web3 smart contract space for some time. I'm also preparing the Czech stablecoin and also focusing on like the banking user experience on top of the DeFi, but decentralized experience, I would say, and then some decentralized science things. Why can I talk about the regulation as such? Currently, the MICA regulation, that's already like aligned, set, and now it's up to the particular countries to actually implement the laws which are compliant to those regulations. And this is what is happening right now. So here in Prague, we are undergoing or performing some feedback and reviews on the drafted law for implementing the MICA regulation. And I was providing those feedbacks, and I was also in the personal talks with the Ministry of Finance, who is preparing the law, and also with the Czech National Bank as potentially to be regulator for our projects. I'm a developer myself, but in fact I do need to understand the impacts of the laws and regulations in order to better understand on how to architect the things together. So here is one of the disclaimers. I don't know if you can read it. I'm not a lawyer, but I really dare to read the laws and ask questions. And sometimes I ask more detailed questions than the lawyers are able to ask. So regarding those regulations, here you can see that there are actually two which are related to our projects mostly. That's the MICA, which I think quite many people are aware of that it exists. And then there is also a DORA regulation, which is about the resilience, where European Union actually thinks about how to strengthen the resilience and crypto, not only crypto, but overall IT security of any IT services, basically. So both two apply, and all these two are in this country are actually implemented through the national implementation law. Why it is important that implementation law? The reason that it might be stricter than what actually the European regulation provides as some sort of the base framework, I would say, or base regulation. So it's very important to read and to understand carefully that those implementation national laws, because they can impose further restrictions, like broaden those restrictions and so on. I often hear from the colleagues the words like, "Oh, that's the stuff for the lawyers" and so on. Honestly, it's not that difficult to read that. It's like only 500 pages, something like that. So whenever you read about some technical specification of whatever framework, like every 6 months, right, for the front-end frameworks, and this is like that. It's nothing else. So you can go through it. For the implementation, there is some timing and some phases, I would say, which I understood. The first phase is, or the first milestone is the end of June next year. At that moment, there will be valid and effective some of the parts of the regulations. Mostly, I would say, regarding the physical, as they call it, natural persons. The lawyers call it natural persons. That means like physical persons are like us, an entrepreneur physical presence, that they will not be able to or allowed to actually provide the crypto services. Does it impact us as developers? We will see later on. Then at the end of the year, there will be a further parts of the effective things to do, like the obligation of audited accounts and so on. So all those who will be like providing those services will have to dig into their pockets and put some expenses on the auditing and so on. Then in January 25, it's more about that strengthening the IT related infrastructure or anything which is IT related. So if it's not pure DApp, if there are some backends involved and so on, then definitely there will be some impact on those solutions. And in the mid year of 2026, that's a very interesting milestone, which is very hidden, I would say, in those laws and regulations, hidden like this, that you can oversee it. And that's basically the end of validity of those registrations, which are possible to be done now. I'm not sure whether such timing is harmonized among European or across European Union, across all the jurisdictions, because all those jurisdictions, like, here, that you can travel like 1 hour and you're in Germany, right? So all those jurisdictions, they have a different starting point, and they might impose a little bit different timing. I don't know yet whether the timing is the same or not for this. But there is one impact which is definitely relevant over here, and that is that we have like pre-MICA projects which are already like operating towards the users. You can think about Uniswap, DeFi server, whatever, and or exchanges and so on. They can be registered till mid of next year, and I will show you that's easy registration. But the newly registration for which are fully compliant with the MICA, with the 2B, effective regulation, the earliest time when you can start to operate those services is the end of the year. So there is like 1/2 of the year where at which time you cannot like start the project, I would say, like operatively start the project later on, okay? Also, again, I'm not sure whether this timing is harmonized across EU. Then the question is the scoping, because there are some parts which are out of scope. The out of scope explicitly are mentioned NFTs. So whether projects are related to NFTs, it is not regulated right now, or not to be regulated right now. It is also, when you discuss with the regulators, they also mention DeFi, that is not regulated. It's not explicitly stated as out of scope in the regulation. And I believe that quite many DeFi projects, which are declaring that they are DeFi, but they are still like centrally operated or something, that they will literally fall under the regulation, because all those like criteria really apply to them, even though they call it themselves that they are DeFi. I'm looking at you, the Uniswap front end, right? Real-world assets, it's not explicitly stated, and this is something I would say, I guess it would be really new to the regulators. So this is yet to be discussed, how it fits or doesn't fit. What is explicitly stated is the insurance. And there are a few other things like funds, blah, 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 and so on. And this is for now. There could be like extension in the future. So that's regulated in this scope. Then when we think about the regulated crypto, and they mention you are providing the crypto asset service, then you must be, compliant with the regulation. And what it is, these are the list of the crypto asset services as they are declared in the regulation, so whatever falls there. And on the right side, you have the examples which are like pinpointed what it could mean. So there's like, first one is like custody. So it means any wallets. Whenever you keep the private keys, you're regulated. You have to be a crypto asset service provider. Then the trading platforms, and that's basically not only fiat to crypto, so not only regarding the sexes, but also crypto to crypto. That's explicitly mentioned there. So I would say any market platforms will fall there, Then exchange of crypto assets for other, for funds, meaning for money. That's basically on-ramps, off-ramps, sexes, and so on. Which is interesting is the middle one. That's that I would call it like shilling services. You know, that's what they call it as the placing of crypto assets, and that's basically the marketing. And they're saying on behalf or for the account of the offerer. So someone who offers, and if you do it on behalf of them, so you are the marketing shilling YouTuber or something, then you have to be licensed. And which I guess is the most strange one is the last one. And that's what they're calling providing transfer services for crypto assets on behalf of clients. And they mean it even from crypto to crypto. So if you would translate it to the developer's world, it's if any project is calling the transfer function of the ERC20, then that project is relevant for this particular point in the service definition. So I think this might be relevant even for the regular DeFi projects. Who is regulated? The person who is regulated is called crypto asset service provider. And by definition is those who provide those services and promote those services to the clients in EU jurisdictions. So it doesn't matter whether you are outside of the, when you register your project somewhere else of EU and you still provide the services to EU citizens, you fall under that regulation. Regarding the natural persons, the physical people, must not provide those services, and there are quite huge fines on that. So only what they want is to push those projects into the registered entities. So like the regular legal entities who are registered with all those doxing, which is being there done as who is the owner of those entities and who operates those entities. Those are who will be allowed to provide those services, and the fines are quite huge. Regarding the DAOs, I would call it like non-registered associations. It's not mentioned at all. And I had a specific or explicit discussion regarding the DAOs with the regulator. And for me, it looked like that it was misunderstood that would fall under the DeFi. So we are not regulating DeFi, and the DAOs are those DeFi things. So we are not like doing that. But we all know that DAOs are actually offering the governance tokens, right? For, you know, they typically offer it, or it could be the airdrop, it could be ICO, it could be in any other means, and then they are being traded. So I definitely believe that these will fall under the regulation. And regarding the DAOs, there are other older laws which correspond to the non-registered communities. So basically to DAOs. We do have such laws even in this country, which are very much fitting to that, except a few legal paragraphs. But on the other side, the impacts on the DAO members are not yet clarified. So there's like ongoing discussion for that right now, and we will see where it will head to. There was an interesting point which was mentioned. I guess it was Germany who inserted into the MICA regulation the statement which is down below, that this regulation applies to legal entities, blah, 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 and certain other undertakings that are engaged in issuance and offering of the crypto assets. So we might consider that these certain other undertakings could be relevant to DAOs. Regarding the non-profit organizations, if you think, okay, so let's put it aside and let's roll out the project under non-profit as some public good, there is no explicit delineation for the non-profit organizations. So basically, the NGOs they tend to be the legal entity, and it means that they will be regularly regulated as any other legal entity and becoming the crypto asset service provider. What are the practical impacts for us as developers? I would say that one perspective can be based on exposure to user. So when you have a user in the middle, then someone who promotes, who is doing like a growth, for the project as a promoter or some YouTuber or someone, or the financial advisor. The financial advisors are explicitly mentioned in the laws and regulations regarding the crypto assets. Those definitely will have to be under some cusp, the crypto asset service provider umbrella or organization or something like that. So that might be the end of the crypto shilling YouTubers here, I would say. Then the business operator, so someone who operates that application. So let's assume that you would be, I don't know, some exchange or someone, and you operate that exchange for your users, for your clients, then you have to be the service provider. That was really like a baseline for the whole regulation. Let's regulate those exchanges, right? And then the technical operator, so someone who operates the servers for this business person, I would say. It's not the service provider as per se, because his or her client is that business one, right? In the, can I show it? No, it doesn't show. Sorry. So that's the business one. So the end user is not the client of the technical one, but it is the technical person is regulated for the resiliency, for the DORA impact, and so on. So as the ICT operator, or as the ICT, they call it ICT third party, basically. There are rules and regulations and things to do which must be done, specifically reporting. Then there is the R&D, and I do believe that currently it's not regulated, in my honest opinion. So someone who, like us as developers, who would create those things, which would be then operated by the technical operator or by the business operator, we do not need to be organized under a crypto asset service provider. Then on the left side, I'm showing the application markets, you know, upmarket, Play Store, and so on. I assume that those will not have to be crypto asset service provider as the markets, because that is not their main purpose. But definitely I assume that they will pass on the compliance rules on the application, what they call developers, but those are basically those who run and operate those things, right? What I see there as some sort of the danger regarding the censorship is that these markets can be targeted for censorship. Right now, a few days ago, there was the Child Abuse Act discussed in the European Union, and that was one of the targets, you know, that could be impacting the application markets and actually the reach of their projects towards the users. If we would then consider it from the other perspectives, like based on what we do or what kind of the projects we do, we could think that there are some projects that definitely are crypto asset service providers related, and some that's not clear. So currently the most projects we are running either the web app or we are running the mobile app, right? So if you are running the mobile app with the crypto whatever there, definitely the one who runs that application will have to be crypto asset service provider. If that application is to be used by the European citizen. When we think about a web application, if it's running on the particular domain and you have that domain registered for you for the project, then yes, you are the crypto asset service provider. The question is when it is running on IPFS, because then you are not like running that service, right? It's just there. So this is the question mark. I don't know. Then we have a browser extension. So when you think about the MetaMask or Scapper, whatever other wallets like Rabbit and so on, definitely. So that's part of the custodial service. So they will have to be the service providers, or they will be limited and not exposed to the users in Europe. Then when we think about the extensions like transaction screener or some security extensions which we have there, like Fire and so on, you know, to avoid the blind signing, my assumption is that these are not literally like doing those transactions, so they will not fall under that. So they will not have to be the service provider. That's my assumption. Then on the very right side, we have a concierge service. So let's assume that I don't know, Joseph over there will be like providing that service to some users, and I will create the application which will be used by Joseph to do that service. I guess that I will not need to be the crypto as a service provider, because there is like non-public offering. It's like B2B, very like limited offering of, okay, I have this like viable application, whatever, and you can put your brand on it and provide it to your users. So I guess this is not the case for being compliant or being that service provider. Very interesting thing is the desktop application. Because if we create a desktop application and we just put it somewhere to be downloaded, not on our domain, but somewhere, it will be just spread around, like in 90s or around 2000, it will be downloaded by the users, and we will not be running that. So there is no business operator, there is no technical operator. We are just there as the developers who created that application. So this is very unclear. I would say that this will not fall under that, but if there will be like a massive approach or massive way of doing that, then it will be addressed in the future, I guess. Of course, when you think about the other means of points of the interaction, like the hardware wallets, ATMs, points of sales, and advisory info webs and news, there will definitely need to be crypto as a service providers, whatever they are doing there. And one of the other practical impacts is the white paper. The regulation clearly states that the project has to show, provide, and have up-to-date white paper, which is good, I would say. All we were always like crying for the white paper to be there, which is not that. I would say, which is a little bit strange or a little bit different, is that it's less technical. There are only like one small chapter for the technical things, which we are used to have like the big one. And by technical, I also mean like the economical, aspects, of the project, and more or like business operations and personal doxing. So literally in the white paper, there will be a huge doxing of anything, anyone who is like behind the project. I could give you one of the examples because we are like preparing here the Czech stablecoin, where like focus-wise is that it will be the multi-chain. It will be on layer 1, layer 2, Gnosis, and from the very start we are planning that it will use the XERC20 to work in the cross-chain matters to avoid fragmented liquidity. Being ready for the DeFi, for the gasless meta transactions, for flash minting in order, to transfer the locked assets, having the native money streaming and auto-renewable allowances. And the target for these projects are other CASPs, like other crypto asset service providers, like exchanges and so on, traders, and the mass market. So that definitely means that this needs to be prepared in line with the regulation. But not only MICA and DORA, which we discuss a lot now. It will have to be that, so it will have to like transit into the CASP license, but it will have to also be the electronic money institution. So it has to ask for the EMI license. What it means is that if when you have a project, it's not only one regulation which we have here to comply with, but depending on the project, specifically if it's stablecoin, if it's, as they call it, electronic money token, then it has to comply with the other regulations which are already in place. That's one of the consequences. One of the experiences with the regulator, I would say, I was really, really surprised on that. Both the Ministry of Finance and the Czech National Bank, they were very constructive and very willing to listen to any reviews and feedbacks. I was very much impressed on that, because from the very past, I was used to more like, the way of, you're a technical president, don't talk to us. We'll talk to lawyers potentially, but there's some time frame, blah, blah, blah. No, now it's very proactive, I would say. Even regarding those NFTs, it was like, I really thank the Ministry of Finance. They were able to influence that regulation, the MICA regulation regarding NFTs, that it was like put aside and it was not explicitly stated it is not regulated right now. So we have some time to a little bit more digest what it means. So regarding the regulator, I got the message aligned, or what I got from the Ministry of Finance, and this is an interesting one. What they say is, like other financial sectors, crypto assets are and will be part of the financial market. So what it means that they are already like stating, yes, it is here. We understand it is here, and what you are doing is perfectly legal if you comply to the other things. And yeah, it's just part of the financial market. So that's it. You know, it's no shady gray zone or something. So this is really cool that they understand it is here, it will be here. The second statement is that we understand that the crypto landscape is diverse, encompassing various mechanisms such as fungible tokens, NFTs, DeFi, real-world assets, and so on, recognizing the nuanced nature of these elements and carefully crafting and differentiating relevant regulations is essential to foster innovation. This is also cool, that they understand that they need to be really careful regarding what they put there in place into those, both the overall regulations regarding the EU, but also into those national laws. And this is important because those national laws, as I mentioned, they can really strengthen and, you know, extend those imposed, rules on whatever we are doing. So this is really cool from the people over here. The third, the differentiation, right? The third one is that we are trying to create positive conditions for entrepreneurship in this area. The effort is to define a playing field that is fair, where you play by rules that make sense. The statement, rules that make sense, is also quite strong one, because it means that we are willing to listen to you to better understand what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. So I was really impressed that they were willing to discuss it and to take the opinions and feedbacks and potentially to adjust some of the parts of the laws. Regarding the time to build, I think the time is now. Why? Because now is the good time to register for the future projects. This is what I mentioned regarding the timing. Currently, the registration, which is just the informative thing, costs now like €41 here in Prague. And then you can operate across the Europe, basically. And you have like time frame till that mid-26 to make the transition into the full-scale MICA compliant one. So we have a time now, like half a year or 3/4 of a year to just register whatever we need for €41. So thank you, and see you on the developer meetup on November 28th on the BeerFi. Thanks. If you have any questions.
Okay. Thanks for the talk. I wanted to ask about, for example, front end, right? So we're developing front end for a protocol that is run by DAO. Does that mean that we as a company that is also operating the front end have to register?
Yeah, that's one of the reasons why I was literally asking them regarding DAOs, because I know that this is quite a common approach, right? Especially in our community or in our industry. And as I said, there is a not clear understanding of how the DAOs should be regulated, because there you have the question of the members, right? Of who has the major influence on the DAO, on the DAO voting, who just purchase it as the mean of the speculation for, with no influence at all. So this is yet, I think, to be clarified. I know that especially in the States, a few years ago, they created like a specific legal entity for that in Wyoming, which would be like aligned to DAOs or specific for the DAOs. When we discussed here, there are no plans to create a specific legal entities for DAOs. So there will be like to find out the consequences, what it means, and do that. So definitely there would be the impact on that. The question is, it's unclear yet the concrete consequences on the particular members of the DAOs. But once you operate that front end, you operate it basically towards the end users. He will have to be the service provider. The question is, who will have to be the service provider?
Yeah, I found it interesting how the the marketplaces and I think the transaction filters or scanners weren't included. Whereas with something like shilling, that was included. So if someone's promoting a token, they're included in, or they have to register, right? Oh yeah. For someone who is promoting a token, or perhaps giving, let's say they give their top 3 tokens or projects, that's considered promotion, and so they have to register, right? Whereas something like a marketplace may effectively do the same thing. They may put like some top projects at the top, but they're not covered. So I'm curious about that gray area.
Yeah, I think I showed it over here that the marketplaces are also relevant.
Oh, they were. Okay.
The point is, once you operate or you promote it, you have to be registered. And
Okay.
marketplaces, yes.
Oh, they were.
Going out of that offering and doing the transaction, yes.
Okay, nice. Thanks.
Hello, thanks for the speech. We are building a crypto gateway transfer service. Actually, what I'm seeing we're actually in the last part, and yeah, it's quite interesting. So just to recap, we need to apply for pre-MICA, right, until the June 30th, as I understood from your speech. And what happens after? Like, if we're in pre-MICA, are we automatically go to the MICA afterwards, or no?
For those who register, and one more thing, there might be a different rules for that pre-MICA registration in this jurisdiction and in other countries. Yes, there could be different laws regarding that. So here it's just informative thing. You fill in some paper, not only you just fill in, I want to be provider of the crypto services. That's all, and you just pay 41 euros. Nothing else. No asking for the approval or anything like that. So like that. It will not be transferred automatically, but you will have a time frame till mid of 26 to do that transition. So you will have 2 years to check that your business model works, and if yes, and you gain some traction to make the transition. So that's what is good opportunity. While when you try to register after that, you will have to wait at least till the end of the year, and you will have it much more complicated. And no transition period. That was my message.
So earlier you were sort of hitting on the Uniswap front end a little bit, and the fact that it's you have to go through the domain name and that. What do you think would be enough to push that? What do you think that would be? What do you think as a front end would be enough to push them out of that?
Can you please repeat it, because I'm hearing it, but I didn't understand.
Yeah, you were mentioning that the Uniswap front end seems kind of sketchy in this in this domain, because they have a domain name that you reach the asset that you reach the front end through.
Yeah.
Right. What do you think would be enough? Right. So a domain name, okay, that seems controlled. If it was an ENS name, is that also controlled?
If it was what?
An ENS domain.
ENS domain. Well, it's not anywhere in any law or the regulation. It's not specifically mentioned that the domain name, right? It's about who is operating that service, who is providing that service. And technically, when you want to find out who is providing the service, and you see it on the website, you just go there towards the web registry, and you ask them who is providing the service, and that question can be raised by the regulator, by the police, by authorities. So basically, most of the time, the registers will comply with that and answer that. Okay, this is, I don't know, Joseph or someone is operating that. So then they have the contact, and then they can follow the lead, I would say. The other lead is where the money flows. So, and I think this is something which will also impact the DeFi, some of the DeFi projects, that even though they try to be anonymous, there might be the money flowing somewhere. And this is very dangerous for the DAOs, and especially the members, developer members of the DAOs, when they are getting paid to try to build something. So they will be considered as someone who has the advantage of running that operation, and that could become dangerous part, yes. So to conclude your question, it's not about the domain name itself, it's just one of the ways on how to get there to the appropriate person. There might be the other ways, and that's the key point. Who is providing the service?
Awesome. Any more questions? Just for the record, I don't operate anything. You pointed at me as an example. It's not me.
No, you can operate. The point is register until the mid of June. That's the clear point. And let's ask as the industry to have a sound discussions with those regulators. That's the point, you know. And I mean literally even like particularly technical, I would say, like economically technical, because when I discussed it with them, I was really surprised that they are willing to understand it, willing to understand that the DAOs are there, that they exist. And that's one of the issues there, that we are already, as society, we are like making communities who are like preparing those projects, and in the other way of what are the legal frameworks there. So they are willing to discuss. That's the key point here, and I think it's still the time to a little bit to adjust it to keep the borders as wide as possible in those in those regulations and laws.